All right. So obviously our channel is Dividend Stockpile. We're mostly focused on dividends. So I know you guys have a couple dividend funds. I just wanted to kind of briefly talk about it. The one that piqued my interest the most was DIVY, Sound Income Strategies. So that looked like it had some really good names in it, good yield on it. So that one's very interesting. I also, in the past, have invested in the IRET, the IREIT ETF. So I know those are all kind of from you guys. So how do you guys approach dividend investing? And are there some other funds that I'm not thinking about that you guys have?
So Divvy is run by Sound Income. They're an RIA that's across the country. They have a radio show, the retirement income show.
Okay.
David Scranton is the CEO. Their portfolio managers, Eric, they're both named Eric. They've been running these strategies as SMAs for the RIA. So an SMA is a separately managed account, right? So it's financial advisor comes and buys you 35 stocks, right?
Yep.
What they wanted to do was say, okay, well, what about the clients that don't have $1 million to give us? And they came to us and said, we want to take the same strategy we've been running for, ultra high net worth people and make it accessible for the smaller accounts, the IRAs, the children's accounts. So Divvy is something they've been doing very well for a long time. It's just now in a more efficient wrapper, more tax efficient wrapper.
Yeah.
And it really is just fundamental research of picking high quality dividend stocks. They've just got a good track record of doing it.
No, I actively picked.
Oh yes, it's
so
very
active. That's a nice change from some of your index-based ones like your DGRO and SEHD, where it's just an index. Yes, I see that for DIVY it's almost a 4% yield right now. So that's really solid in today's market.
Yeah, and getting the upside of the equities is pretty good.
Absolutely.
The other one you mentioned was
IREIT.
IREIT. So Brad Thomas. Yeah. So this is one of the few passive funds we launched this year. And it's passive because Brad obviously has his moat research and so to be active would be very difficult and still stay within the rules. So what he did is he worked with a company called Market Vectors. They're actually owned by Van Eck, Jan's company. And Steven Schoenfeld runs their index business. And Steven's original BGI, which became iShares. So he's been in the ETF industry even longer than me.
Oh my gosh.
So Steven worked with Brad to construct a REIT index that really focuses on the moats. Like the idea that the real estate that you're acquiring in here is got value beyond just whatever subsector. And it's really meant to be a competitor to VNQ, right? Like the fully passive versions, I really dislike, right? Because they basically all own the same thing.
Yeah.
And this gives you a way to get a better version of it, right? A way to hopefully have some protection when things go the different ways. And it's interesting. We have another real estate fund with House as the ticker, HAUS. I use that one in FIRE right now because it's residential real estate.
Yep.
And one of the most inflationary things is rent. Right. So residential real estate does really well in inflationary environments.
So you guys invest in like apartments and single family home rentals and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So those are some cool ones. Another strange one and I say strange in the nicest way, because nobody thinks of it to do this way. LPAY, LPAY. It's kind of long, high quality dividend stocks, and short, kind of what do you call it? Unprofitable, exciting names that people buy.
Interesting. All right.
So it's kind of a dividend portfolio, right? But it's got this short end to it to protect you when the world goes bad. He did really good in 2022.
I can imagine.
Michael Winter is the PM, and the name of the company is Leatherback.
Okay.
It's different than other dividend focused funds I've seen out there because it's that long short component and very active.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense. It's like usually people who are dividend focused shy away from the big tech names, just because there's no yield there and things like that. But this goes one step further and actually not bets against it, but prepares yourself that you can take advantage of any kind of downside on that part of the market. That's very interesting. All right, so I know a lot of people are super excited about YieldMax right now. You guys have done an amazing job marketing and getting the name out there and increasing the number of ETFs that you guys have under that brand. I mean, it's a long list of different single stock ETFs you have through the YieldMax brand, but you guys also have a joint one where there's multiple holdings inside that same ETF. So I know this is really popular in the community. The yields are amazing. The weekly payouts are even more amazing. You guys just converted to the weekly payout. So
we do listen. See,
there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So obviously there's love and hate for those types of ETFs. So can you kind of explain how they came about, and two, kind of what the focus is or what the goal is or who the ideal client is for those types of funds?
Sure. So like all of our funds, a client came to us with an idea. We worked with them on it. We went and sourced a portfolio manager for it, which was Jay at Zega and his team. It's not just Jay, by the way. There's 9 people there. So there's a lot of work that goes into this. So we worked with the client, and the original idea was to do Berkshire with a yield, Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay.
Which is a good idea. We filed for it. We've never launched it because instead we said, well, what if we did other stocks with a yield? What would you get? Because Berkshire with a yield is maybe 4 to 8%. So are people going to be excited about that? We don't know. Maybe we'll still launch it someday. It's up to the client. It's not up to me. But they worked with our product development people, and Gavin, who's our CRO, said, what if we went a little higher? And he went to Jay and said, Jay, what does it look like if we did a covered call strategy or synthetic covered call strategy on Tesla? And Jay said, I can get you 75%. And went back to the client, the partner behind YieldMax, and said, what do you think of this? And they said, let's try it. I know everybody's excited now. The first 3 months, nobody cared about these things. It was actually your community of YouTubers and things that picked up on them, and that's when they started to take off. So that's really how it came about. And it's wonderful working with these clients. They're very thoughtful. They listen. They pay attention all day to everything you guys are saying. The next innovation was going to the fund of funds, which was YieldMax and YMAG. YieldMax is my favorite. Like I said, I have a public account. That's one of my biggest positions is YieldMax.
Okay. Nice.
I don't own YieldMax and Fire because Fire is a fund of funds and YieldMax is a fund of funds. So you can't own a fund of funds and a fund of funds. And then we did Ulti, then we did the shorts. So the client keeps innovating, and some of these ideas actually come from what we see in the forums. I think Ulti was there was another fund we saw in even the suggested ticker that's going to be coming out soon. That I can't say it yet till it's there, but
sure.
And then the last iteration happened a couple days ago, which is we did another set of fund of funds with a partner. That partner is NASDAQ Dorsey Wright. Dorsey Wright's well known to the RIA community, one of the first people to do technical analysis and point and figure relative strength, right? There's a number of like first trust products using Dorsey Wright. There's a number of anything momentum, relative strength. Dorsey's usually behind it in some way.
Okay.
So we got them to create us an index that basically looks at the YieldMax universe of single security ETFs. So that would include, Tesla, Misty, Netflix, Apply. It would also include GDXY or OARC. It does not include YieldMax or Ulti or the short ones, right?
Okay.
And every month they score all the ETFs and they say, these are the 5 that score the best. And every month we rebalance into those 5.
Okay.
Right? So it's actually a passive fund. It's our first passive fund with the YieldMax team. But because it's following an index, but it's implemented using active stocks, active ETFs. So that one is called FEAT, FEAT, for Featured 5. We have the exact same index, and we put it in another ETF called FIVY, FIVY. In that one, we don't just own the 5 YieldMax ETFs. We own 60% in the 5 YieldMax ETFs and 40%, we'll do 4, in the underlying stocks. So right now it has Misty in there, but also MicroStrategy, and it has Netflix in there and also Netflix in there, right?
Okay.
And that's to help get rid of this myth of NAV erosion. There's no such thing as NAV erosion. It's the stock went down, right? And you took out the volatility. If Murney goes down and you took the volatility out, there's no NAV. The NAV's going to go down. That's just that's not erosion. Right? That's, you want the volatility distributed to you. That's what we're doing. Right? Now that's why we're kind of doing it different with these two, though. Because something that's momentum driven, you want that upside. Right. So we wanted to give people 2 flavors of this one. I think these are going to be fun ideas, I think. I know everybody's asking, because I see the comments, why aren't these weekly? There's a good reason, right? I only have 5 positions in here. What if there's a week where I don't have a payer?
Yeah.
I think you guys would be much more angry about not getting paid than getting paid monthly. You like weekly, stick with the YieldMax.
Yeah. There's a strategy for everyone, but I don't really see a big difference between a weekly and a monthly payout. So, it's all going to get reinvested, but it all depends on what you want to do with it. But some people love having that weekly paycheck, especially if they're planning on using the money. It's kind of like their job, if you will. So there's options for everyone. That's really what I really like. Awesome. All right. So
we talked. And the Defiance ones all went to weekly too. So you got those. I still think IWMY with the small caps. I just think that's a diversifier that people really should have, especially with the administration change. I think small caps are finally going to have a meaningful thing, right? That's if we're going to do a lot of things in the U.S. again, that's where the small cap money is. And if we're going to see M&A, Google's not buying Microsoft. Google's buying some small, tech company, right? Like,
and that makes a lot of sense, especially small caps haven't done very well over the last few years. So the difference between the PEs of the large caps and the small caps, eventually there's going to be a switch, if you will, and small caps are either going to catch up or the large caps are going to go down in value. And so, to your point, so many people are in the biggest names because that's what's worked well over the last few years, but they've completely abandoned or forsaken the small caps or the mid caps. And it's not always going to be large caps lead all. There was plenty of times in our market history, the small caps won, real estate won, gold won. Like, there's a lot of different ways to invest, and a lot of people, especially those who have only been investing since, say, COVID, they've never experienced that or seen that. So to get that exposure to the small caps makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's an interesting one.
Awesome. Well,